Hello, family, and welcome to another episode of Role Model Experts Cafe. I'm your host, Dr. L, the Parent Whisperer, and today with me I have a special lady. Her name is Sue Decaro, and I believe that she has an important message. I had a chance to talk to her, and I really loved how she shows up in the world and her message. So I decided to bring her on board and have her talk to you guys, tell you a little bit about herself and how she got to do what she does. I think she's amazing and I think you'll agree with me. So, Sue, thank you for being here today with us. I appreciate you taking time out of your busy day. And welcome to our audience as well. Without further ado, please tell us a little bit about yourself, what you do, how you came to be who you are, and go from there.
Sure, absolutely. Thank you so much. It's an honor to be here. So, how long do you have for me to tell my story? No, I'm just teasing you. I'm a heart centered worldwide coach. I'm a life and parent coach, and I support people all over to really overcome the challenges they have in their life and raising their children. And the reason I do this work is I'm extremely passionate about helping people because I know this journey can be extremely difficult. I raised and continue to raise two children who are both now in their 20s, two girls. And my oldest, as I like to call her, is my greatest awakener. So she helped me to see the things in myself that I wasn't aware were there through my parenting practices and through some of the stumbling that I did as a parent. And let's just say life in my house was chaotic for a number of years, each and every day. Probably any experience that my clients have brought to me or that you all are experiencing as you listen, I have probably moved through myself. And so, with all the support, therapists, consultants, et cetera, that we hired to help us achieve something different than what we had, I learned that this is something I wanted to go back to school for and dedicate my work life to helping families all over the world.
Okay. Awesome, awesome. I appreciate it. I appreciate your passion about it.
Thank you.
So why do you think this is an important thing? Um,
We're raising adults, basically. They may look like children, but we're raising adults. We're raising the next generation. And many people that I come in contact with, and I'm sure you do as well, are finding themselves at 20, 30, 40, 50 years old really looking inside and trying to understand why they have deep wounds, why their children have triggered them in so many different ways, why their childhood spoke to them in maybe painful or um, enlightened moments that have helped them to see themselves in a different light. And so many of us, and I include myself because I've been through a lot of transformational work, are in this place. And I don't think we want our children to experience that. I know I don't want any child to experience some of the transformative work that I have done in my life and that I do with my clients. Not that I don't love the business, but I think we can do better because we know better. So bringing more conscious awareness to life um, in terms of who we are as adults and then also who our children are in this world is really a key element.
I love it. I once read the greatest or the most important thing a parent can do is teach their kids that they're responsible for their life and the consequences of their choices, basically.
Yeah.
Uh, and that's something that we experience as adults, but somehow in childhood, it seems like we make uh, exceptions to it, and it really confuses the kids, in my experience, in the
I
process.
agree. I agree. And I think we have to feel empowered as parents to be able to empower our children to step into
Mm.
that role of responsibility at young ages. So, a 2-year old can be responsible, a 5-year old, a 10-year old. And, then when they're 20, 25, they can make decisions and follow through on those decisions without expecting mom or dad to fix it, solve it, or decide for them. And it's a really key ingredient to children learning about their belief in themselves, that others believe in them, and that they have the strength and abilities to move forward in life.
That's awesome. I totally agree. I wholeheartedly agree. I'm always amazed by the ability of the little people that I call them that they're just amazing. I always say I believe in them. I believe they can do, and yet they still come on top, and they still amaze me even more. They rise to the occasion every single time. It's just totally, totally amazing. So, in your experience and in your work, what do you feel like are the typical challenges that people face when it comes to raising kids? What are some of the challenges that you see as common things?
Well, I think there's a lot of challenges that parents see that are the day-to-day challenges, but the deeper issues for the day-to-day challenges are more about understanding ourselves as individuals, showing up to, this role, as we might call it, of parenting. And so our children will trigger us in so many ways. And parents come to me and say, my kid is constantly pushing my buttons. So this is the first thing. They're buttons to push. That's not about your child. That's about you. Why do you have these buttons? I like to call them staples buttons, those big red buttons people wear all over.
Right.
And they're only pushing those buttons because we have them. And that is an opportunity for growth and transformation, to see when your child pushes something on you, in you, that you reflect about whatever it is that you're reacting, overreacting, feeling highly emotional about. What is that saying about you? Not them. They're fine. They're only pushing the button because your button is hanging out there, for them to find. So this is an opportunity to look within, because those buttons are usually things that we have not connected with, and we have not uh, moved through to learn more about ourselves and some of the pain or discomfort that we might feel. So our children are here to teach us. They're here to trigger us. They're here to teach us, to show us the way for us to grow. And many of the challenges that parents experience in everyday life really are results of this. And I think that the second part of this is seeing your children more clearly. We see the children that were the images, right? Before I had kids, I can remember thinking my kids are going to sit on an airplane quietly, because nobody else's kids did before I had children, right? And so I thought, when I have kids, they're going to sit quietly on the airplane and not disturb the rest of the people. Same thing in a restaurant. My kids will not ever run around a restaurant, because I thought I had control. We don't. Control is an illusion. We cannot control, unless we physically hold someone against their will, which I don't think is, a good way to do it. So it's really letting go of the dream of your children and looking at the reality of who they truly are, and the beauty of who they are, the unique skills and gifts that they bring to the table, and how you can focus on helping them thrive in a way that serves them. And so these are the two facets, I think, of conscious parenting, of the work that I do. See yourself, see your child. And they sound very simple, but it takes a lot of work to be able to do both of those.
Yeah, I love it. I think children are always testing boundaries, and so when they're testing those buttons that you were talking about, I think they're just testing you. They're seeing where is the actual boundary. I mean, that's how they learn about the world around them. And of
Right.
course, the more buttons you have, the more things they need to test, right?
That's right. That's right. And they're here to help us grow, just like we're here to help them grow.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, in your experience, when somebody comes and meets you and they want to make this transformation, they want to be better parents, they want to make sure that their kids don't end up with those issues. What are some of the challenges that you have to help them overcome, basically?
Well, most often they come to me with specific things like, my kid won't listen to me. My child is on technology too much. We can't connect. We're, extremely
Mm,
disconnected. And so, these things are what we see every
mm,
day, but they're really manifesting themselves as a way to look beneath the surface. So, in my work, it's a process. It's not, one and done overnight kind of thing. And it's really tapping into why we feel the trigger, where it's coming from, going back to that inner child wound, perhaps, that's there. Um, One of the best examples, I think, is a child spills their milk at like 2 or 3 years old or 4 years old, and the parent flips out. As
mm,
Dan Siegel would say, we flip our lid. And we are overreactive when we think of the situation, because most kids do spill their milk. I don't think I've met a child that hasn't. And so the reaction is very strong. And when we go back and we look at why we felt so deeply about that, and this is where the work comes in a simple, in simple terms, I'm sharing the story. It can be that when we spilled our milk at 3, 5, whatever age we were, somebody really laid into us. Maybe we were punished, maybe we were shamed, maybe we felt like love was taken away. So there's a big wound or unmet need in respect to the milk. And that's why when our child does this, it's a wake up call to look within. So these are the kinds of things that we uncover. It's the story, it's the movie that plays in our mind over and over again. That either I'm not worthy of love, or I'm only loved in certain situations, or I have to be perfect. These are the things that I hear from a lot of my clients,
Mm.
that it's, um, love is something that is withheld perhaps. And there's a lot of pain and wounds from that, or another child is loved more than them, and they did not feel love in a way that served them or filled them up.
Mhm.
It happens
Absolutely.
often, sadly.
Yeah, very powerful, very powerful. Thank you for saying that. Um, all right, so what are some of the tips and secrets that you have for our audience today that they might be able to start being more conscious of their day-to-day parenting and lifestyle and the choices they make?
I think the first is be gentle with yourself. I mean, this parenting, job or role is really difficult. It's one of the most challenging things I think we'll ever be called to do. So be gentle and compassionate with yourself as you move through it. And as you do that, take time for yourself. So I believe that every parent needs self-care, even if it's 5 minutes, in order to fill your own energy tank so that you can show up present and full, not spent and
Mm.
exhausted for your children.
Mhm.
And that will help to look at every situation perhaps with clear eyes, a different vision and a better perspective. The next thing is pause. When your children are acting, reacting, or you're acting and reacting in a way that feels uncomfortable, take a second, or 10 or 15, go to the bathroom, go to your room, whatever you can do to kind of leave the situation and give yourself a chance to reflect and ask yourself the question, what am I feeling? Or the many questions, what am I feeling? What does this say about me? Or what can I do to support my child in this moment? And to really offer yourself the opportunity to reflect. What is this about? Because oftentimes we're reactive as human beings, and we're not, and we're impulsive, and we're modeling these behaviors for our children if we don't take a step back. So that would be another tip. And I think, one of the things that I think is really important for parents to remember is that behavior for all of us as human beings is a form of communication. And 90% of the behavior that we see in our children is communicating something beneath the surface, not something we can see. And so, maybe I'm insecure, I'm sad, I need to be loved, I'm feeling, hungry, can be as simple as that. And so, looking at behavior in this way helps us to uncover, as detectives in our own home, what the child is trying to tell you without words, perhaps because they can't, or perhaps they don't even know. But the behavior is just communicating that. So, for example, child throws the book bag across the floor when they walk in the door from school, if they're going to school. They're not mad at you, and they're not mad at their book bag. Something has happened. So if you immediately go to the book bag and punish the child for throwing the book bag, you've missed the boat. You've
Mm.
missed the behavior beneath the surface, the communication process beneath the surface. So, that is a huge opportunity for parents to help see things in a different way when it comes to their children, and to look below what's actually happening.
Wow,
So those are a few
absolutely.
simple tips that we can do every day. And every day, and I know you know this and probably preach this too, every day is a new day, and every moment is a new moment. And if you screwed up in the last moment, own it, repair it, apologize for it, because you're not only repairing the relationship, but you're modeling to your children how important it is to take that step, and then move on to the next moment and the next moment. We're not perfect, we're imperfect beings, and we need to just own and move forward.
Absolutely powerful. I remember actually when you were saying pause, it reminded me of actually the the principal at my kids' school, and they go to a Montessori school, and she's amazing because regardless of circumstance and situation and incident and what happens, when she shows up and something is unexpected, different than what she was planning or different than routine, the first thing she does is stands back, says, "Hmm." And that whole pause is just like so pattern interrupt that like everybody stops. It's like, okay, obviously something is up. And then in the meantime, that she's also pausing to see how to best handle it. And kids really pick up on this.
Hmm.
And then they tune in to see what she has to say next, basically,
Yeah.
which is really amazing to see. So
What a
definitely.
beautiful practice.
Yeah,
And the children are learning
right,
that it's
exactly.
okay to be, in that place of, thinking.
Right, exactly. Very cool. All right, so tell us a little bit about your programs and what you do, and how can people benefit from it.
Sure. So, as a worldwide coach, I work worldwide, supporting people. And I have a few online courses. One is called Transcending Our Triggers, Finding Our Rhythm. And certainly that's something we've been talking about with the triggers today. And it really helps you to move through them. The second course I have is Raising Respectful Listeners, because every parent wants to be heard and wants their kids to listen better. And so this is also a very transformative opportunity to move through that course as well. I do one-on-one coaching. I answer questions, in private messages, and also have a worldwide community called Conscious Parents Thriving Kids, as well as a podcast called Conscious Parents Thriving Kids. So these are all ways that I offer tips, ideas, support to anyone and everyone that comes my way.
Right. I love the fact that you use the word thrive in there because I really think both parents, and hopefully you pass this on to your children as well, need to have this mindset that, by surviving and surviving really well, you're not going to necessarily thrive. You just become very successful at surviving. And if you can learn to thrive, both as parents, and then show it as an example for the kids, then hopefully the kids can also thrive by learning from you as well. So I love the fact that you have that in your wording basically
Thank
throughout
you.
your program. So definitely very nice. Awesome. So what are the links? I guess I'll put the links and in the description box for your website as well as the Facebook group as well. Is there any final words for us, Sue? I've thoroughly
You know,
enjoyed your talking about this
Thank
stuff.
you. Thank you. I think, my heart goes out to every parent all over the world because, again, it's one of the hardest things that we are called to do. It's also one of the most enjoyable and enlightening if we allow it to be. So, again, I think just bringing that compassion home and loving yourself as much as you possibly can every day as you move through this journey and raising these beautiful young ones that are in your care.
Absolutely. I love it. Thank you so much for sharing that. And for you guys, our audience members, if you haven't subscribed already, please make sure that you go ahead and click the subscribe button so that you can go ahead and get the latest interviews that come on the channel. And definitely take Sue up on her offer and her invitation. She's a wealth of knowledge, and I hope that all of you thrive in your lives and all of you thrive, see your kids thrive as well. I think that's one of the things that it's every parent's wish, basically. So I definitely hope you guys get to see that and get to achieve that. So join us, and we'll see you in the future. Thank you, Sue, for taking the time to be with us today, and thank your audience members for being with us as well.
Thank you.